The Lady Soldier with Footnotes. The Lady Soldier with Footnotes. One lady soldier was a nymphomaniac and kept a blog. One lady soldier's husband was killed by an IED. One lady soldier loved her commander, but was afraid of having a baby. When she finally got home, she found she couldn't have a baby. One lady soldier slept with John Schofield, got fatter and fatter, and made him cry when she was discharged. One lady soldier never received any mail. One lady soldier was big and strong and no fool. Number 1, abused nymphomaniac. Favorite excuse when you're young, dumb, and full of cum. Number 2, it made her a better soldier. Number 3, favorite of virgin lieutenants. Wonderful for unrequited love. Number 4, going to Indiana State with a GI Bill. Expects to do something autobiographical. Number 5, showed in her eyes. Number 6, she smoked cigars all right. She was no soldier. So what is this? Lady Soldier with Footnotes. I think this is based off of Ernest Hemingway, that book of poems. So this is one of those syntactic interpretations. He did this. I forgot his title, but he had 6 things and then 6 footnotes. It was an interesting form, so I copied it. Again, a lot of my loyalty, if I think about why I do what I do and why I'm on the path I am, and what I've sacrificed for it, sacrificed a lot of paths that would have made me money. I just sacrificed a career where I was making $200,000 in real estate in order to do this running for president path. Every time I have a relationship after a couple years, I seem to jump out of it. Not just lack of commitment. I am looking for something to commit to, and I'd like to have a normal relationship and a family and all those normal things, but these are things that take priority that I have to figure out first. What is my path? So intellectual honesty is probably the first criteria, that I have one life and I'm going to try to live it honestly, which means that when I feel too much confusion, 5 or 6 years in real estate and dominant culture and being on the internet and doing a lot of normal stuff, I felt like I was walking away from my truth, and this whole year has been me walking back to my truth, picking up all these breadcrumbs on my way out of the gingerbread house of 13 Carmine, number 13, New York, New York 10014, King's Quarters, my apartment, which was a great lifestyle, and my dancer girlfriend, who was a great girlfriend. I should have married her. She's the 3rd girl I've met that I should have married. All of these girls are amazing, and some of them I keep as my friends. One of them, the second one, isn't talking to me, but when you get to a point in a relationship with someone like that and then you back out, it's hurtful. So I understand that she's hurt, and then also the way that we broke wasn't the best, but yeah, why do I live this way? And it's in a search for truth, but also it's a bond to the military. I did join because my grandfather was in, and my father tried to join, but he's epileptic, so he couldn't go to Vietnam. So I do believe our family is one that serves. Some people step up to do those things that we feel are difficult but must be done. My grandfather, did I say this? I think I said this earlier. On his first date with my grandma, someone tried to rob the bus they were on in LA, I think Orange County, Newport Beach. And my grandfather grabbed the guy. He had a knife, twisted his hand behind him, told the bus driver to open up the door, and then threw the guy off the bus. This was all just quickly. The guy starts trying to rob people. My grandfather handles him, throws him out. Some people, when stuff happens, step up and are able to act. I didn't tell this story. That was my grandfather on my dad's side. And then my dad went and I said this. Someone mugged a girl in LA, and my dad chased down the mugger, and he was shot for it, and the bullet went through him an inch below his heart. He survived. Didn't hit any organs, just ricocheted off a rib. Didn't even break the rib. So yeah, people have that sense. I think that's a genetic thing, a sense of justice. We can't keep our mouths quiet when the shit starts smelling too bad. You got to say something. I was thinking it was purely anti-authoritarianism, but I'm starting to realize it's more also people just have like this justice gene where if something's happening that you feel is wrong, you have to say something. So my grandfather on my mother's side, her father, someone tried to rob him once. He was a businessman and a lot of money. That then her older siblings, they sold everything after he died. But so we've always been humble. But these men in the family, I think the traits of the grandfathers definitely in strong families get passed down, or they're there anyways to be reflected on. So someone tried to mug him. He was a short guy, maybe 5'6". He's attending a boxing match with all his jewelry, rich, successful guy, um, likes to flash. And someone comes behind him when he's in the bathroom and puts him in a headlock, and they're trying to choke him out so they can rob him. And he always carried a gun, reaches into his jacket, and he shoots the guy through his jacket and shoots the guy in the nuts. And the family says that story because it's funny. Oh, yeah, someone tried to rob your grandfather, and then he reached around and shot the guy in the nuts. But we also pass these stories down as like, not just to brag or just because it's funny, because as examples of manhood, human beings are mimetic. We imitate each other and we imitate our family, and that's why the family gets together and passes down stories of when a family member did this or that, or strong male role models to imitate. These are the things we should imitate. So there's a strong sense of self-defense, doing what's right, definitely in our family. And that's why I hold my dad accountable when he acts a little dumb. But he has his own issues which complicate the scale with his epilepsy and the drugs he takes. I hold myself accountable, and I haven't always been the best. And so, but I have a lot of good female friends, these girls that I might not be able to commit to them now in my life. I keep them in my life, and they definitely hold up a mirror to me and let me know when I'm being a little silly. Oh, I just got a new message from a Tinder girl. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, lady soldiers with footnotes. So this is me feeling a responsibility to not only bring up injustice and talk about the war from a justice scale, but to identify with the soldiers. I was in the military family, and just the experience being over there. So that's what Hemingway was doing too. Not to glorify it for the sake of just glorifying manhood, but just to kind of like, what is the experience? So one soldier was a nymphomaniac and kept a blog. Abused nymphomaniac, favorite excuse when you're young, dumb, and full of cum. When you're in the military, there's these girls where like everyone's horny and everyone's trying to get with each other, and I was on a base with like pretty good mix of men and females, and so it's like high school or anything else. Someone gets a reputation for always hooking up with people. Someone's a prude. Girls start, people start pairing off, the coupling. So you have this like dynamic, sort of like college / high school / something completely else, because there's a bonding experience of being in the military, going through training, especially now that we have these wars. So I can imagine this girl who she was sleeping around a little bit, and people probably looked at her as a slut, but she probably had, from what I know about girls who are a little promiscuous, she probably had maybe some abuse in her past. So that was that character. And then number two, and also the lady soldiers, because I'm not a lady, and I know that their experience was different than mine. I was only in training, MOS training, so I never saw combat. But the female experience in the military, when these stories come out of sexual harassment and other stuff, I don't really think that people in the military have a higher rate of abuse of women. Maybe the statistics prove otherwise, but I think it's just reported more in the military, and it's reported less in civilian life. Combat zones is probably different, because combat does something different to you, and it could be hard to relate and empathize with other humans. So maybe people who've seen combat have a different rate. But at the base I was at, I didn't hear too much funny stuff going on. It's a little tougher because you're doing physical stuff with guys, and guys, I think, have a little bit less of a control over their sexuality. Not to say that women aren't as sexual as guys, but for me, when you're young and you're very horny and you don't have an outlet, and I was raised conservative Christian, it's almost like you're going insane. You're like, when the moon's out and that young male horny energy it's like a fight or fuck energy. When you go out to drink with a pack of guys and we're all not getting laid, there's like 5 guys on the street just looking for a fight. We're just like, we're turned up. You could just feel that energy. I haven't ever experienced that from females. Young females, like, they might be horny and they might be thirsty. But for males, it's like the thirst button is very close to the aggression button. And just in my own experience, when we go out and we're like looking for like girls and stuff, there's this like rowdiness to it that's just another level. It's this like, and you learn to, I say, when people say, it's interesting. I've been looking at the news lately and people say, and I'm like, oh, that's sloppy logic there. It's when your mind is going into default. You're not quite paying attention to what you're saying or the connections you're making. So, but I'm talking about something like my young aggressive horniness, so trying to be aware of that. Try to be a better person, a better man. That's what men's health is. Every day try to be a better man. Other men help you, but women definitely also help you get that other perspective. So, number 2, one lady soldier's husband was killed by an IED. It made her a better soldier. Being more cold. I can imagine that. I'm not sure. These aren't people I know. These are things I'm just trying to imagine based off what I read and me knowing military culture for the little time I was in and the friends that I know in. One lady soldier loved her commander but was afraid of having a baby. When she finally got home, she found she couldn't have a baby. That was a favorite of Virgin Lieutenants, wonderful for unrequited war. So unrequited war, like unrequited love, it's just a play on words. Favorite of Virgin Lieutenants. Lieutenants usually are seen as they have power and authority, but they don't have experience. So they're an easy target to make fun of. Some of them are good, I've heard. Some of them are a little silly. I had both, but I wasn't in a combat zone. I was just in training. But we had a good lieutenant. We had an idiot. So if you're going to think about that, we're not really supposed to, enlisted aren't supposed to get with your chain of command. I knew a couple who did, so that's a major no-no. But I knew a sergeant who was ducking out to hook up with some of the girls. What are you going to do? The rules are there to be broken if you can. That's not, as an anti-authoritarian, I don't look at it that harshly, but for morale and stuff. So if you think about this girl who's sleeping with her commander, who is she sleeping with? The idiot lieutenant. Who would make such a stupid mistake? The idiot lieutenant. She's afraid of having a baby because if she gets knocked up, the military sort of operates on very Christian principles where you can get in trouble for having adultery. So if you get pregnant, I can imagine that could be bad on your military career if you're a single mom, and then if they find out it was a lieutenant and it was in your chain of command. So that's over her head while she's having this illicit affair, and I knew a couple people who did stuff like that at my base. But then when she comes home, she can't have a baby. So that's just irony. Number 4, one lady soldier. Where was it at? Number 4. One lady soldier slept with John Schofield, got fatter and fatter, and made him cry when she was discharged. That name, John Schofield, usually these names mean something. Schofield. I think that's the Jarhead guy. That book, Jarhead. Let me see. Yeah, no, that's Swafford. Never mind. That's not him. Jarhead was a book by a Marine about the Iraq invasion. Again, they don't explain the values or the larger framework. We just go with a microscope to the granular, and then we dramatize that. We take Matt Damon, put him in the green zone, but we don't question why we built the green zone or what we're doing to the culture of Iraq. We just dramatize some action within it, and we make sure that action and the overall plot abides by our dominant narratives. Or maybe we question them to a point, but never to a point that we can actually correct them. So most of our art, or what we call art in the dominant culture, I think fails the standard of what art should be, which is to open up your heart and teach you more about the human experience. And this is just entertainment in order to paper over atrocities, but whatever. Slept with John Schofield, got fatter and fatter, made him cry when she was discharged. John Schofield got fatter and fatter. That's funny because when I got in trouble, I was getting chaptered out. It took another 6-8 months after I got kicked out of the language program to actually chapter me out because there's a process. I have to make sure they do it the right way. So when we have what's his name, Chelsea Manning, or is it Chelsea? But the dude who was the dude who now had the sex change and stuff. But I understood that a lot. I was in military intelligence like that person, and I was see, that sounds like I don't respect his sex change as much, but my question mark there is that they tortured this girl. We have it documented. So I'm wondering how much of what's in her head is hers. Once you go through that type of torture, we're talking about personality deconstruction and stuff, like extended periods of sleep deprivation and stuff like that. So I guess to give the benefit of the doubt to Chelsea, Chelsea knows who she is, and these actions are her choice. But if someone's been heavily tortured, and I think there, it's not unreasonable to think that there's some inducement and brainwashing in there, because when Chelsea's released, now Chelsea's a part of this culture which doesn't seem to question dominant narratives as much, and instead subscribes to identity politics, which plays into the excusing American crimes. So Chelsea went in with a larger view, I feel like, and came out with a smaller view. That's why I question Chelsea's, but I don't know too much. I don't pay attention too much to that stuff. But I brought that up because when I'm in trouble getting chaptered out for 8 months, there's other people getting chaptered out. There's a couple gays. Back then you could, in 2000 to 2002, you could still get out for being gay. And there were a couple people, we call it eating your way out of the military. So I wasn't the only one who changed their mind, who's like, this isn't really for me. I was just doing it on probably more of a subconscious level, running into troubles and creating problems until they snowballed into this fat military jacket of counselings and Article 15s. And finally the Army was like, you know what, we're just going to let this one go. Even if you wanted to stay in, we're probably going to, you're just too much trouble for what you're worth. And I'm like, cool, let's peace out. But these people who are eating themselves out of the Army, it's basically you have to pass certain weight and physical fitness requirements. And so females would usually do this. I knew a couple, maybe like a half dozen. But we're all together because the ones who aren't in school or aren't in our normal training, we get enlisted into the company daily tasks. So the company has like janitors, people who keep the barracks running, going to detail the vehicles to take it down to the oil changes. There's normal stuff that keep the company functioning. So you take the dipshits and the troublemakers and the whatever you call us, but we're like the problem kids, and we're the ones who go and keep the company running because we're just sitting around with nothing to do, and they're not gonna let you do that. So they give us. So I was working in the supply room, helping the supply sergeant, and that's where I met these other people, and some of them were like, these girls are just getting fatter and fatter until finally the military says, all right, you failed enough weight tests and physical fitness tests, we're just going to chapter you out. It's the same chapter as I got, general under honorable conditions. There's 4. There's honorable, general under honorable conditions, which I got, and I think when you eat your way out you get, then other than honorable, and then dishonorable. Dishonorable means you committed a crime, you're a bad person. Other than honorable, you got in some trouble, but it wasn't quite like criminal level. And then general under honorable conditions just means you didn't train. Your failure to train is what they officially put. My command was trying to push me for dishonorable because my commander didn't like me. I didn't like him or his wife. I would get in arguments with his wife in class, so we bucked heads, me and his wife. I never got along with my high school teachers. Why would I get along with language teachers? I wasn't disrespectful to my command because I wasn't a dumbass. I remember that one guy who was, and he got shipped off to military prison. So I never spouted off to my direct sergeants or my command. I took all this shit and I was just quiet. I lied to them and I got in trouble, but I got caught and I got in trouble for it. But I was always respectful and tried to be a good soldier face to face. I was disrespectful to my teachers. And one of my teachers was the wife of my captain. So that is what made that little mortal enemy. So he pushed for a dishonorable. I had the book on military discharges and GI rights. I was pretty sure he couldn't get it, so that didn't faze me. He was just being an idiot. He went in front of the colonel of the base and asked for a dishonorable discharge. I was very respectful in front of the colonel. I said, I don't know why I just can't train. I keep trying, but I keep fucking up. I played the idiot card. The colonel gave me a general under honorable conditions, so the second down. So I understand these types of people. One lady soldier slept with John Schofield, so let's say I knew a couple girls like that. You get in the military, you're like, this isn't really for me, but you fall in love, and now you want to eat your way out, get fatter and fatter. Within a year, you'll get discharged, but you'll live in military housing with the person you met from the military. And that was a specific girl I have in my head who, this dude, he really liked hip-hop, and me and him would trade hip hop CDs and talk about the golden age of hip hop, Raucous Records, Sound Bombing. He had a bunch of cool stuff that I didn't know about. So I knew his wife, and his wife was, they met in the military in basic training, got married, fell in love, and then she didn't want to be in the military anymore. So he was going to stay in, and she was just trying to eat her way out. So she got fatter and fatter. I made him cry when she was discharged, so I guess I didn't think their relationship was going to work. I thought when she got out, she was probably going to leave him, and she only married him probably for the housing. Because at our base, at least, if you got married, you can get housing off base. So, it's the military is like a institution like anything else. You can game it, and you can try to. You have to be on bases around soldiers to understand there's this complexity to it. It's not just everyone who wears a uniform is a hero, but that's convenient when you don't want to question their actions or your own blind support, right? So going to Indiana State with a GI Bill expects to do something autobiographical. So my envisioning of this soldier was, she married a guy to get off-base housing, didn't want to be in the military anymore, so now she's eating her way out. So she sounds very self-interested. So when she gets out, I never used my GI Bill. I figured me and the military are cool. You put a lot of money into my training, which I didn't pay you back for, so I'm not going to get any money out of you. I paid into the GI Bill. People act like the GI Bill, well, they don't. People are ignorant as to what the GI Bill is. You put money into it. They give you a choice to sign up for the GI Bill when you're in. And if you do, it's like Social Security. You put money in, and then when you get out, you get a chance to draw it out. It's a lot more money than you put in. So the GI Bill is a cool thing. But you do invest money into it. It's a program which you have to put money into it. You can choose not to put money into it, and then you won't get it out. That's how it was when I was in. I don't know if it's better now or more in soldiers' favors, but it's not something that's completely free. So when I don't use my GI Bill, I'm actually giving the military back a little bit of money that I paid in, because I didn't, just like I could get if I upgrade my discharge, I can go call in or go to, I think, maybe an in-person hearing, but I think it's a call-in hearing, explain what I've done since I've been out, so 22 to 36, now I'm 36, explain how I've changed my character and I've been a good citizen. I guess I would be questionable now, the way I talk and the things that I want to do. Some people might think that I am, I don't know how I'm going to come across to other people, because I'm just trying to live my life. I'm not too worried about how I come across. But yeah, I can go and try to upgrade that discharge, and then I'd be able to get like a VA loan. Right now I can't get the VA loan and other stuff, but I'm pretty sure I could get that GI Bill because I paid into that. But I'm like, me and the military are cool. I'm going to speak on it, but I'm going to have some distance from the actual. There's some things I could have done better, some ways that I feel like the military could have been better while I was in. But she's going to go to the Indiana State University. She seems like an opportunist type person. Expects to do something autobiographical. These are the types of writers I've met, just a little bit into themselves. I think I come off as egotistical, but I have a curiosity about the world and myself. But when it comes down to it, hopefully my actions reveal that I'm not an opportunist and I'm not purely about myself. But they're not words or actions. That's how you know someone's character. And then one lady soldier never received any mail. It showed in her eyes. Just like society, you'll find soldiers and just like society, we should reach out to them, and I would try to reach out to these people, but everyone will be training and everyone will be around each other, and there'll be those loners, and you can tell they're loners, and they just don't have anyone back home, or don't have a girlfriend, and that's what's good about the military, is that you're automatic family. So even those people, you go to the rec room and there'll be people hanging out, you have automatic friends, as long as you socialize. And some people don't know how to socialize, but you have to practice, practice not being a dipshit, practice not being. There's certain rules on socialization which it would take me a minute to try to outline them. You just have to hang around people to learn certain things you do and certain things you don't do. How to bond. And then one lady soldier was big and strong and no fool. And that is an interesting way to end it, because he said something like this, but he wasn't talking about girls. I'm pretty sure he was talking about something else. But I use pretty much very similar language, so that's where I got all this stuff. It wasn't just off my head. So she smoked cigars all right, but she was no soldier. That's the tough thing about a misogynist culture like the military. And I said that I don't think that they're more violent than average society, because I didn't see that. It might be my ignorance. But I heard about it. The Marines, there were Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines on the space. And the Marines, there was this story of like this guy who either raped this girl or he did something bad to her, and it was a fellow Marine. And he didn't get Article 15 and he didn't get punished. He just got his ass whooped by the sergeants. And I heard this from other Marines. They were like, yeah, so and so happened, and they beat his ass. I don't know if they put him in the hospital, but they didn't do it through the courts. So they had a way of governing themselves. I don't know if all Marines are like that, but I do think that it's the tougher of the branches. And I wouldn't put it past that culture to handle things in-house. You could go through a bunch of like Article 15 and this guy's getting his career ruined and this and that. Or you can try to, I don't know if it was as high as rape. I guess that would maybe not be enough if the girl was really traumatized. But I wasn't involved. I just heard that there's this guy who crossed the line who had some taken behind the woodshed type punishment. So it is, even if a lady soldier is big and strong and no fool and one of the guys, I do feel from what I know about the culture when I was in, is you could smoke cigars all right, but there'll still be people who don't think you're a soldier no matter how much you train and how much, I guess, and that's just how it is for any culture when you have the, like, warfare is like a masculine activity, and military, no matter how much peacekeeping or other stuff or how much civilian stuff you're doing or administrative stuff, is a warfare system to fight the army. I would always go back to the point of the army is to fight and win land wars, not to establish peace. So there'll be, people who'll be like, oh, but that, there's a reason why women can't be in combat, this and that. But what is the truth? If you're big and strong and no fool and you can shoulder a rifle right next to that male, then why not? We could serve openly with gays now. We should be able to serve openly with women. I think the logic in that is that you just don't want to lower the standards. So if the women can meet the standards of special forces or whatever else, I'm pretty sure that the group cohesion can figure itself out. We served with gays. It wasn't openly because the ones who did got in trouble, but we didn't have any issue with them. No one's in my base. Maybe it's because it's MI, military intelligence, and we're supposedly the smarter ones, but you get over it. It's like you make a couple jokes about showering with them. The gay people try to gross you out because it's back and forth. That's how it is. You tease them. How I grew up. When we talk about this modern bullying epidemic, this is how people socialize, at least males, is that you tease, they tease, give and take. Maybe there's some fights, there's some establishing of hierarchy and dominance, but you don't want a little bitch in your crew. You don't want weakness in your crew. So you pick on someone, but when they defend themselves, you respect them. I remember in high school there was these bullies that you didn't cross the red lines, roam around the school, and I had my friends. So I had my friend Mike and bigger guys that we would fight and we would hang out. But then I didn't get picked on by the other bullies because that was our crew, and like someone and they knew me because they knew Mike. So Mike, the tougher guy who picked on us but was the alpha in our group would all like hold our own and we would wrestle, and that's how we get better at fighting. But then I knew these other guys through Mike because Mike ran with those guys too, because since he was like had the older brother who was a hot shot in basketball in high school and this and that, knew other guys and who did real shit like in 7th, 8th grade having sex and smoking weed. I was a good Christian kid, but through Mike I knew these other guys who then didn't mess with me because I'm Mike's friend and this and that. So one of these guys is in this home economics class, and home economics is like you could be in all the smart classes, but now you're in like PE or home economics. That's the open wild with everyone else. So in your smart class there's no bullies, we're just trying to learn and we're nerds. But when we're in the open wild in these classes, this is where there's a lot of danger. We're little fish, and now there's more barracudas in these classes. So these guys, one of these bullies who you can tell maybe comes from a bad family or something, just always never doing any of the work, just looking for fights and talking. And these are the guys smoking maybe in the bathroom. I remember in PE once one of them came into the bathroom and he hit a bowl and he lit up, and this was high school. And he looked around and he looked at this younger kid, maybe this Asian kid, and he was like, "You better not fucking rat on me." But he looked around. He didn't look at me because like I always kind of blended in. It's like I didn't look like a guy who would rat on him. I was curious, but I didn't catch eye contact. I just kind of saw what he was doing. He looked at the person, the weakest out of all the people in the bathroom, and he didn't want to fight that dude. He just wanted to get high and make sure that a little bit of fear that this dude's not going to run out and tell the PE teacher. Because that kid might. Because that kid hasn't socialized enough to know that, like, why would you rat on that guy? Let the guy do what he's going to do. Why are you, don't raise your hand and tell on the bully. Well, that's your own path in life. If you believe that that's the right thing to do. I didn't live like that. I live and let live, and that's why I'm able to walk, I think, through certain things. That's an anarchistic libertarian way to believe, even at an early age. You keep your nose clean. I don't do shit that I don't feel like I have business doing, but if it's not harming me or harming other people. Now, if someone's going to get picked on, I might intercede, and now I'm maybe put myself in a position where now I have to deal with something that I didn't want to deal with. So in that home economics class, that guy was looking for a fight, you can tell, and roaming around the class, and I don't have Mike there, so this is one of those times that I've avoided fights most of my life, but it could have been a fight then. So he's looking for someone you can kind of tell. So he starts picking on, I don't look as much a threat, and that's the thing with bullying. If you don't look like a threat, so you fight enough, you have enough physical confidence, or you have enough like friends and stuff that now you're not the isolated threat. Who was? It was a Mexican immigrant kid. These kids who could barely speak English, not even Mexican, maybe even Colombian. But like, because we had Mexicans in Southern California, but this kid was like, there was only like him and maybe his friend. There's only like, they were isolated. So this black kid was, and there were white bullies too, but mostly black in my neighborhood. And Mexicans too, and gangbanger Mexicans. And then every now and then you'd have like, not every now and then, once or twice a year, the blacks versus Mexicans after school. And I think this is explained sociologically, like two poor communities which are more violent just from where they grew up. And so then if one person challenges another person, now your homies and your homies, well, most of them are Mexican, most of them are black. But there's always like these intermediaries who have friends on both sides who are trying to make peace. But when it went down like real like bare-fisted fighting, like in the yards after school. But only a couple times a year, but I remember them. But in this home economics class, 7th, 8th grade, I brought this up. Why did I bring this up? Oh yeah, how people socialize on this bullying mentality. So this guy starts pushing this Mexican kid or Latin American kid. It wasn't even like wetback status. It was like another country. Like everyone's like, we don't have an idea of geography, and we're not taught real history about where these countries come from, or like Chile and why they're so oppressed, or these Honduran immigrants or Guatemalan and the overthrow, the turmoil in their country that the United States supports. We're just like, you speak funny and you're not Mexican, but you speak Spanish, so like you're weird. Weird is other, it's different. It's like, huh, funny kid. But they push him, and this kid just swings on the black kid, the Latin American kid does, and pops him in the mouth. And then they both like get in trouble and they both get suspended. But after then, the black kid had so much respect for him, and he wouldn't pick on him. He'd come up and put his hand around his back and say, oh, this dude right here, he's my dude. And he'd be like, man, he fucking hit me in the face, dude. He was just, because he's used to bullying everyone, and this kid who hits him in the mouth, now you see the character on both sides. It's like the bully's just bored, and he's used to violence. He probably has an older brother who beats him up, or where his streets that he walks on, his block, you have to be a little tough. So he's flexing, but he's also just being who he has to be to survive. That's all anyone is in life. We are who we have to be to survive. But the kid had an immigrant background where he kind of knew. I've talked to a couple immigrants growing up where like some of them have that mentality. It's like, no, I know this game. I might not be from here and I might not talk what you say or how you say, but I know what's going on in human nature. And I know if I let you do this to me, this is just going to continue. So as soon as you cross my red line, boom, like I'm going to hit you. And he did that. And the rest of us are like, I grew up in between people with money and people who are violent. So I had friends with both. So that was a little light bulb in my head. I was like, oh, it's that simple. If people push you past a certain point, just push back and you gain respect. Or maybe you don't, but you stop that pattern. So people who learn that sooner than later, I think, have an easier path in life. And that kid from another country taught me that like, because I was definitely, for up to a certain point in my life, keep my head down and let myself be pushed a little bit. And I had my older friend Mike who was toughening me up a little bit, but I still would let him push me around a little bit. And eventually I learned to fight him even and defend myself to the point where it's like, all right, physically I'm pretty capable. By the time I'm in high school, I could like roll around with, and then wrestling was another confidence builder. All right, I can handle myself to the point that I'll take responsibility for physical alteration, what was it? Physical altercations. So I think once you get to that point where you're just like, you just commit to like, all right, whatever's going down, if I have to, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and defend myself. If you don't get to that point in your life, you're gonna maybe at one point rely on the defense of rely on someone else's to defend you, and that's a certain way to live. If you That's what they're teaching now with the school shootings and stuff. It's run, hide, or fight. If you can escape violence, this is just normal life stuff. If you can escape violence, just like nature, most animals escape violence. The animal that seeks out violence isn't going to last long to pass on its genes. So violence is never the answer. It shouldn't be. Violence is when you run out of options. Hiding, well, if someone has a gun, I get hiding, but that's what fight or flight. Other than like weapons are involved, it's like try to de-escalate while keeping your honor. But if you can't, then you have to defend your honor. And I think that's a pretty normal approach to socialization, and that's an old school approach. And now with this whole bullying, you might be or whatever. I don't want to speak too much on it because these narratives that come from the top down, I don't feel have much wisdom. But that's the wisdom that I gathered, and I guess that relates to the lady soldier who was big and strong. Smoked cigars all right, but she was no soldier. But you tell that to her face. Tell her she's not a soldier to her face, and she might smack you in the face. And that's how she becomes a soldier, is by not backing down. That's how you earn people's respect. Just be yourself, without apologies. That's all. And yeah, don't let yourself be pushed around by the world. And I think that's how you earn the respect of your peers. So I was going to talk about that message I just got. I'll talk about it in the next video.